star is born and not made. At some infinitesimal point of time at birth, all the ingredients that make up a star come together and a star is born. A star is a shining body visible to all in the sky. Also, a star is a person who shines in a particular field. People can point to a star, whether in the sky or amongst us, and recognize it for what it is, a star. In our journey, we shall visit a star and find out what makes it shine and what makes us recognize it as a star amongst us.
I was born in Asyut and in my grandfather's house because my grandmother had strict rules that everybody has to deliver inside the house, all 8 sisters. We left Asyut quite early, but I remember the house. It was a beautiful big house, very noisy, and lots of people coming in and out, never quiet. My mother, as I said, has one of 8 sisters, and each 8 sister on average has 4 or 5. So it's quite a tribe. And then I remember that there was lots of fruit. We used to have beautiful fruit. Fruit, yes. I remember the big fruit, yes, as early recollection. But then we left Aysut quite early because my father was a doctor in Loksor, and he decided to bring us to Cairo. My family was one of 4. I'm one of 4. I'm the youngest of the 4. My elder brother, my sister Mona, my elder brother Fauzi, my sister Mona, Wahib, and myself. So the 4 of us had to move to Cairo, and my father wanted us to move to Cairo so that we would go to better schools.
And his practice was going to be in Cairo?
And he had to move his practice from Loksor, where he was a very prominent oculist, and he became a prominent oculist in Heliopolis, in Cairo.
And then your early schooling was in Cairo?
Was in Cairo, and we...
The school in Asyut at all?
No, we didn't. And we lived in Heliopolis ever since. So ever since we came from Asyut, we lived in Heliopolis.
And what are now your school days? What traces are left?
Lots of traces, lots of things that you don't forget ever, ever. It was a very nice school. It was called the American College for Girls. And it still exists, but it's under the name of Ramses College now. I was not a very good student, I must say. I was naughty, I didn't want to study. I remember lots of things that I'll never forget is because I'm left-handed. We had a teacher, an arithmetic teacher, and she used to beat me with the ruler on my left hand so that I would stop using my left hand and I would use my right hand, and it never worked. I continued to use my right hand. It was a very happy childhood. It was a very nice school. We learned to play the piano. There were music appreciation classes. It was a small school, but they were very strict. They were very, very strict. Whenever we did anything wrong, it was severe punishment.
And it was not a mixed school?
No, no. Do you think an upper Egyptian, a Saidi, would go to a mixed school? My mother would have killed us. No way. No way to go to a mixed school. We had to go to an English, to a girls' school.
But outside school times, school hours, how did you spend? Did you not go to a club or?
Yes, I went to the club, but under very strict rules too. What you should do and what you shouldn't do.
Give me an idea of the do's and don'ts.
The do's and don'ts. I always liked to play sports, lots of sports, and I still play tennis. Now I only play tennis, nothing else. But then we were playing basketball and everything else, and I was on the swimming team, and we had a water ballet team. And I was on the water ballet and on the swimming team, and my brothers were very, very strict. You go to the swimming practice, you train, you swim, you don't talk to boys on the same team.
Of course, describe Heliopolis at that time. It's quite
beautiful. Heliopolis was, if I tell you, I can go on the bicycle. And my friends Nanu and Poopy all had bicycles. We all had bicycles, and we all went together to the club on our bicycles. No bother at all. Nothing happens to, no traffic. And of course, at that time, the Heliopolis Palace Hotel was still around. It was beautiful. Our dream when we were kids was to get married And so one day we would go to the Heliopolis Palace for dinner. That was the ultimate in our dream, was to go to that place for dinner.
As being married after?
After being, well, we wanted to get married mainly to go to Mary to go and have dinner there. That was the first priority.
No other way you could go and have.
No, you cannot, no, unless you are married, unless, we don't go out there in those days, except the same group. I used to go to Nanu and Pupi's houses, and they come to my house, and that's it.
Yes. But you got married fairly early.
Very early, very.
Tell me about, how did you get to meet your husband with all these restrictions?
Well, I managed, and how? And I did. It is a very fun, it's a very nice story. Well, that it goes back to the Bali, to the water Bali. My husband, Ramzi, was known to be one of the best amateur photographers in Egypt. And at that time, the Heliopolis Sporting Club only had 300 members. They're now 26,000. So everybody knows everybody else. And it was there were lots of British girls and American girls who were very beautiful. And Ramzi made it a point to photograph all these beautiful girls in the club. So I was there.
Excellent way to talk to girls.
An excellent way to make his way to the girls. So as I was coming out of the pool, I had long hair, I had pigtails. I was coming out of the pool, and he came up to me and he said, "Ana Ramzi Zaklama." I said, "Yes, I'm not allowed to talk to you." And he said, "I want to photograph you." I said, "What? My brothers will never allow this. My mother will never allow this." And then he said it in Arabic. I must say it in Arabic. "Wenti tuli, you are asked by Ramzi Zaklama. Everybody, the whole of Cairo wants me to photograph them." And modesty was not his asset at that time. "And you tell me that your parents will not allow it? No way."
It all started with a photograph. Tell me about it.
You're damn right. It did start with a photograph, because at that time I was very fond of photography. And my hobby was to take pictures of beautiful girls. So Loula at that time, she wasn't still a beautiful lady. But she portrayed to me the real figure of an Egyptian, true Egyptian portrait. And you can find the picture of Loula on the temples of Luxor. Exactly. So to me it was a challenge. And but I didn't succeed at that time to take a good picture of her because of her mother. She was very stubborn and very afraid of being approaching to her daughter. But later on, when we got engaged, I photographed her. One of the beautiful pictures I ever made. It's a technique of a high key. They look like a painting. You have painted it in charcoal.
In charcoal.
A couple of days later, he comes, and imagine Ramzi, who doesn't like to wake up early. We used to train at 7 o'clock in the morning. At 7 sharp, he was there watching the training. So coming out of the pool, I started to talk to him. We were having an ice cream, and my brother came, and I will never forget that day. I was so embarrassed. He pulled me from my hair. He pulled me from my pigtails in front of everybody, and he said, "No more training, no more club, no more bicycle." So he took me, and they locked me up. I was grounded because I talked to Ramzi. And Nanu and Pupi were able to smuggle me sometimes out of the house. Nanu and Pupi are my childhood friends, my best friends from school. They're twins. And sometimes they would get me on the phone. They tried to smuggle me out, but the bicycle was locked up.
Circumstances, Loula's mother was very strict, but she had to play the role of father and mother. Her mother was more strict than our mother. So we used to go to our mommy and ask her, "Mommy, Loula, we want Loula to come with us. We want Loula to go. Please, could you call Tante Lina?" So my mother, very nicely, she'd call Tante Lina. "Nasa, can we have Loula? Can Loula come?" Of course, we used to play. We had a very huge, big garden. So Loula used to come. We used to enjoy our bicycle rides in the garden and enjoy our naughtiness together.
So I had no access to the bicycle. I think I was punished for some time. Then Ramzi somehow called or found out that he got to know that I was grounded and that I was locked up. So he said, "Okay, The only way I go and propose and ask for her hand. I marry her, if that's the only way I can talk to her.
Or is the only way to take a photograph? Is married?
Yes, you must take there's a beautiful photograph which he took of me when I was then not even 17, I was 16. I was still in the last year in school.
Yes. And so he came to...
So he came to my mother and he said, I'm coming here to propose to your daughter. She didn't know which one because my elder sister was there, so she thought it was the elder sister. And he said, no, it's Loula, the little one. And she said, no, 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 that's not out of the question, she's too young. And he said, I'll wait.
All right.
So he waited. Ramzi is an exceptional man. Ramzi is a man who cannot tolerate a woman who is dependent. He wants his independence, and he told me that from day one, which frightened me as a young girl. He said, don't try to make me, to stifle me, don't try to dominate me. I will have my own life, my own freedom. This frightened me a little bit at the beginning, and you're 17, what do you think? What's this guy want to do?
These were his conditions.
This was his conditions. I didn't have any. My condition was the bicycle, Nanu Pupi, continuing sports, and that's it. I had no other ambition in life at all. Beyond that, no ambitions. Never would it have dawned on me that I was going to be in business and work like that. Exactly. It never crossed me in those days, never even dawned that this would happen.
This, of course, now his conditions restructured your thinking. Now to reorient yourself to something.
Yeah, it's still it's another direction because, of course, I'm different. But I must go back to those days because this has some impact on my life. I was frightened by the independence. I was dead scared. I didn't want that. I wanted to cling to him. I wanted to cling to my mom. I was terrified of being independent. And he insisted on that. You know, Muhammad, one stage somebody said, I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt, she said, a woman is like a tea bag. You never know how strong she is until she is dropped in hot water. Well, I was not dropped in hot water. I was thrown in boiling water, boiling water, and I had to react. And so Ramzi started, I don't know whether it was his vision, whether it was looking into the future that made him formulate me the way he wants to formulate me. زي العجينة, like a little pasta that he puts in your hand, he formulates you. He formulated me with the independence. He formulated me to take on responsibility. So when the time came, and he was taken into custody, and it took.
We're coming to that.
Yeah.
Before we come to that, when did you start beginning to think that you're going to be more than just a wife? You have to start now a career.
I didn't think of the career until he was detained. But before the detain, he told me that I did not have culture, quote unquote. So what's that? You have to understand, you have to, school is only the beginning. University, this is nothing. You have to learn. I said, how do I learn? He said, I take you to somebody who's, and you have to go 3 times a week to this man and spend a day with this person. And a day, I used to go for the day. And it was Hamid Said, the late Hamid Said, my great, great person who had such an impact on my life. He lived in Merg, and it was easy to get to Merg from Heliopolis, 5 minutes by car. And I used to drive to Merg all alone, no problem. Go there. Hamid Said used to wake up at sunrise at sunset. And all he did was read. He taught me philosophy, he taught me literature, he taught me music, he taught me art.
What a unique way of getting an education. I mean,
I was lucky. Boy, was this a blessing. And oh my God, I will always cherish this man. I went to see him just before he passed away. He was 96 years old, even more, 98. And imagine he told me, how are Shireen and Dina? This was before they were born. And when they were born, I used to when they were 2 or 3 years old, I used to stick them in the car and go to him. And I remember one day, once Dina fell in the terra. She fell in the river, in the little pond, in the canal, because he lived inside and Dina was playing and she fell in the canal. So it's.
And you would spend the whole day with you?
He'd just talk. He'd just talk, books. And then he'd give me something to read. And the next week or days, we would go and discuss what I read.
Now that was Loula in the local market. You became known, you took off in that, but then you spread your wings and went internationally. And once again, I want to telescope time, and I want to begin at the end, where you were selected as one of the 50 most successful women. Let's flash back. How did you reach that point?
I reached that point, again, as I told you, I've been struggling. I struggled and I studied and I learned the profession extremely well. I did not just take it haphazard. So as I learned the marketing research, I went straight into the PR because I found myself into it, into this public relations. I started by joining, the first thing I did, I joined the International Association. I said, staying local, it's not going to work. So I started going to every single conference internationally, wherever that way was.
To get all the exposure.
To get all the exposure, yes, and the knowledge.
Of course, at the time, public relations, the connotations of public relations in Egypt was very negative. It's usually the department where you send your least favorite employees. Yes. Where you send.
Yeah.
How did this?
It's changing. Of course, it has changed now, and we don't call ourselves now. If I go back to 2008, we started calling ourselves public diplomats. We're called corporate diplomats.
Corporate diplomats.
Corporate diplomats. Anyway, to go back, flashback, yes, I started to get internationally. I started to go to every conference. I got on the board of the International Association. I formed the International Association chapter in Egypt. So I worked locally. I started to do lots and lots of things locally here. And then the PR campaigns that are coming in, which was all more or less awareness campaigns of changing behavior, of awareness, of studying consumer habits, changing consumer habits, behavior, and all that. But then it went to much, much further, that people started to understand the importance of corporate communications. So I started to do that, and then I started to expand regionally. I was chosen as the chapter for the vice president for the Middle East region. So I started going to the Middle East and giving lots of seminars and speaking at conferences in the whole Middle East, in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait, in Dubai, in the Middle East, everywhere. And then I went into North Africa as well. So I got to go to every single event that was taking place anywhere. And then that was it. Then I went internationally, much more internationally, into the world congresses that wherever they were taking place, in the US, in Europe, in South Africa. I remember I even went to South Africa for the first time years and years ago, and there was a whole page about this Upper Egyptian woman from the Upper Nile who is speaking at the conference. And I was head of the region, including South Africa.
So this is so much for your professional career. Let's now turn a bit more personal. I know that there are 3 generations working in your organization. Yourself, your children, and
the grandchildren.
And the grandchildren as well. How do you, what are the mechanics, what are the dynamics of this?
I think it's the most rewarding thing in my life to have this whole family around me, and they won't leave. They're not going to go anywhere. It's not that. So it's wonderful. It's very, very rewarding. I'll tell you how the mechanics worked. I did not force my daughters to join. When they graduated, Shireen graduated from Economics and Political Science from Cairo University, Dina political majoring in psychology from the American University. When they graduated, they got married, and I said, don't leave your children and start working until the children are old enough to go to school. I did not want them to go through the experience, but I had to go through. So anyway, Dina went and worked as a secretary in a company. Shireen started working in a hotel, in one of the sales departments in a hotel.
After the children were...
After that, I think... No, they didn't have children then. Yeah. And so they started to work, and they were working, they were enjoying whatever they were doing. Then when the children came, they stayed home for a while, and then of their own free will, believe me, nobody believes me, they think I forced them into it. They were not forced into it. They came into the business of their own free will. Shireen started.
They asked you for a job?
I asked them to join. When they decided to join, I said, come on.
Yes.
And they too did a lot of studying and research, a lot. They did not just come in and take over immediately to do the research. No, they did a lot of studies, the same studies as I did in the US. They did a lot of studying, and they took over completely.
My mother represents the good side of life, the goodness in life, like enthusiasm, hope, optimism, energy, great honesty, simplicity, good things in life.
All positive things.
All positive things.
Surely there must be something about your mother that is not all positive.
You give me the negative and the hard side of it, Angeline.
There must be something that you feel that you wish your mother wouldn't do that.
Sometimes, at work, she's a little bit too hard on us at work, maybe because we did not lead the very hard life that she did or that she has gone through. So sometimes I feel she's a bit too hard on us at work. But other than that, she's a great mother.
Dina, is she hard on you at work? Is she hard?
Sometimes, but I would say most of the time she is not.
She's not.
Yes.
And I'm very lucky also my son-in-law, Dia, Shireen's husband, is there controlling the finances, which I'm hopeless at. And my nephew, Wahib's son, Halim, he's doing the
So
PR.
it's really a
It's
family
beautiful.
business. It's a
And
family
then when
business.
my granddaughters graduated, they did not go elsewhere. They were immediately pulled in,
Pulled in.
whether they liked it or not.
But do they like it or?
You'll ask them.
You are the third generation working with Loula Zaklama. How does it feel to have your grandmother as a boss?
Wow. To tell you the truth, I don't feel like she's my grandmother at work because I look at her like she's the boss. She's the big boss. So at work, she's my big boss. And then in the afternoon, she's my grandmother. She's the best thing in the world. But she's...
Yes. If you want to call her at the office, what do you tell her? What do you?
Madame Loula.
Madame Loula. No,
Yes.
not Granny.
No, not at all.
Not Granny. What made you decide that you would like to join her in the business? I know that your generation is liberated and you don't, your
Yes,
parents.
sure. I was never forced to join this career. I had all the freedom to choose the career I wanted to take. And when I looked at her and see all the achievements that she has done and the position that she's in, I looked at her and then I said, I'd like to be even less than half of what she is now.
Less than half?
Less.
You don't want to be more than she was?
I can never do it, not in a million years.
Why? There was no magic to what she did. She just worked
There was
hard.
no magic, and I don't think she was lucky or she fought for it. She struggled a lot.
She
Yeah,
struggled.
big time.
The key to her personality was the struggle and never giving up.
Yes.
Well, that's anybody can do if
We can do
really.
it, but she had to do it, and we're not. We are a little bit luckier than she is.
Because you started from a better,
Yes.
an easier.
We have it in hand. We already have it.
You haven't that.
Yeah.
So now, one day, inshallah, you'll get married and have children. Will you take them also in the business?
I'll leave them the freedom to choose what they
Freedom to
want.
choose.
Yeah, certainly.
I mean, you look forward, looking now, working, you have your grandmother and you have your mother and yourself in the business.
Yes.
What are the dynamics of this? How does this work? How do you feel about it?
It's quite difficult, but at work, I myself, I work at the PR department. My mother works at the research. My father, he's the vice president. So we don't deal together and interact every day. But you end up, at the end, you see them every day, and I take their advice, and they support me, and they...
You said something, or you see them every day.
Yeah.
Sometimes don't you have enough of them?
This is embarrassing.
Let's be...
The bad part about it, or the bad thing about it, is that when you have a problem at work, you don't like to discuss it at home with your parents and with your family, but at the end of the day, they're with you and they know all about it, so you can't have this break.
It's always there.
Yeah, it's always there. Even over lunch or over dinner or during the vacations, if one of us has a problem or anything, the three of us or the four of us are involved in it. This is the only bad part about it.
One of Loula's trademarks is being extremely sportive. She is a sports person of the first degree.
Yes.
Do you play sports the way she does?
Unfortunately not.
No sports?
No. I used to play tennis when I was a little kid, but after I joined school and all the studying and this, it was a little bit difficult to continue.
To continue?
Yeah.
If you had a choice not to go and work for Loula, what career would you choose?
I never had even, I never had to think about something else. Ever since I was still at school and I was Sanawiyya Amma, I said one day,
to work there?
yes, I wanted to do this.
You wanted to follow your grandmother and your mother?
Yes.